Right, good morning. We're the Highwaymen. My name's Jason.
Good morning, everybody, and I'm Steve, and it's jolly lovely to see you. And Jay, it's bloody lovely to see you again. I haven't seen you for a week or so now, mate.
It's about 3 weeks.
Everything good?
Everything's good, mate. Everything's good. I've been to Mexico. My daughter got married. We had a wedding.
Brilliant.
It was fantastic. And you just did a bit of an impression of a horse then. I thought you did a bit of a jockey. Did you not see it?
Well, I don't know why. I do know why, actually. It was the Highwayman thing. And he just
I see. Right, in riding the horse. Very good, man. Very good.
Jay, what are we going to be talking about today, my love?
Today, we're talking about something I think very close to your heart, because you've got something to say. I'm interested here. We talk about sex education in schools. You've got a 14-year-old. So clearly something's been going on. Tell us.
Well. So first of all, my daughter attends a grammar school, and it's all girls. It's an all-girls school. In the town that we live in, there's also an all-boys school, and there's mixed schools and stuff, bits and pieces like that. So that's fine. So
explain a grammar school. Sorry, just explain a grammar school for those that don't know.
Oh, okay. So a grammar school is when the kids are 11 years old. They have to sit a little exam. It's quite a big exam, really, to see how well, supposedly it tells them how bright a child is, and if they pass this test, then they could be offered a place in a grammar school. So a grammar school it used to be something. I don't think it's so much now, but it basically works towards a slightly higher level of education.
It's still a public. It's still a public funded school, though. Just for those that don't know, so it's still like a state-run school. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yes, goodness, sorry, mate. Yeah, absolutely. So when I was 14, I remember being deeply in love with Caroline Bott. And well, for a few minutes, and then whoever else came along, and all the other bits and pieces like that, and stuff like that. But I was absolutely, unfortunately for me, I suppose, testosterone raging. I always had a girlfriend. I always had a girlfriend, and it was brilliant. It's kind of what I lived for, as opposed to school, really. Now, the sex education, and not just the sex education in school, really, the whole ethos at the moment is everything's fine, everything is okay. So if you're gay, that's okay. If you're a lesbian, that's okay. It's absolutely fine. And I agree with that. I totally agree. You're absolutely right. But I cannot believe the amount of stories that my daughter comes home and tells me that so-and-so have split up. Very much it's an all-girls school, right? So split up. It's caused all sorts of dramas. Well, what do you mean they've split up? Well, they're not a couple anymore. Right, okay. And it's like normal. It's normal for the. So this is the basis of my concern is they're being taught, not only is it okay if you're gay or lesbian, but it's normal to be gay or lesbian. They're almost being encouraged to have these relationships. So to them, there's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. And I can't see where the definitive line is, because I'm really sorry. I agree with this. If you are gay, be happy, love your life and be happy. If you're a lesbian, be happy, have a great life. If you're into chair legs or whatever it is that you do. But we're now a generation that are almost being encouraged to be gay, lesbian, or whatever else it is. Now that I do not think is right. That if you go right back, forget all the fluffy words and all the niceness that all the good doers are doing. Go right back to basic biology. A man is meant to be with a woman. That's how they reproduce. That's how we do things. Blokes do things differently to women. Women do things differently to blokes. That's why it works so well. If you're gay and if you're in a same-sex relationship, good for you. I'm sure you make it work. But the bottom line is, it's not every day. It's not something that everybody should be. You are unique in your own ways, and that's a beautiful thing to be embraced. However, the fact now that so many of our children are being encouraged to go out there and have a same-sex relationship, in my opinion, that's not right. Jay, what do you think?
Well, okay. Well, firstly, I think you've kind of missed the point of the conversation was about sex education in school, which is not.
Okay. Well, no,
But
I'm going to
however,
come to it.
but now we're talking about this. We will talk about it. Okay, you've got a girls' school. You've probably got 300, 400 pupils, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I guess something like that.
So if a percentage of the population is, you're not talking about 90% of the kids are in relationships, are you? In same-sex relationships?
Yeah, frankly.
So 90% of the kids in that school. So you're saying that 90% of those. I think the thing is you've got to differentiate, because you kind of contradicted yourself here. You said, it's fine, and and if people want to do that, that's fine. And now you're saying it's normal. I think the difference is when we were at school to when people to now is, nobody when we were at school, if you had an inclination that way, would ever have come out and said, oh, I'm going to have a boyfriend. Yeah. They wouldn't have done, because it was, we were at the point then where, we saw being gay as kind of being weak or being feminine. And I think that's changed so much now. And I think if you've got that inclination now, people are okay to come out and say it. I think, when you say it's not normal,
it's not normal, Jake. I'm sorry, mate. It's not.
Yeah, but you get normal. That you get that in, but you get it in. I saw a thing on television. Okay, about a bloke who thought his dog was gay. Now this is going to sound really funny, right? Have I told you this story before? No. So he's saying, like, I think my dog's gay. So what do you mean you think your dog's gay? He said, well, my mate comes around with his male dog, and every time he comes around, he tries to hump him. So they did this experiment. So they took the friend's dog round and they put it with a dog in heat. Now, you know what dogs are like when a dog's in heat. They just can't help themselves. It's kind of all hormonal, and they just want to shag it. They try to shag cushions and stuff. And that's sort of different. But when a dog's in heat. So they brought the other male dog, which was the one that one was trying to shag all the time, with a dog in heat. And it was trying to shag this female dog. They put the dog that the bloke who was trying to shag the other dog in with this one that was in heat. Didn't even give it a sniff. Weren't even bothered. So proof that actually in the animal kingdom, we have animals that are more attracted to the same sex as they're not. I think the only issue I've got, so to say it's not normal, I kind of, I'm not, you're talking about, if you talk about anal sex, is that normal? Well, it's not normal. It's not natural, but it's not natural between a man and a woman in that term, is it really? You know what I mean? So from that point of view.
No, I can't help but think you might have been missing the point. So sex education in the schools, they are being taught that it's not just about the birds and the bees anymore, but it's also about how lesbianism is absolutely fine. If that's how you are, that's fine. And I agree with it. At that point, I agree, because those people should not be alienated. Like at school, if anybody, I've got to be honest, can't even think of anyone who might have been at our school, because if they were, they wouldn't dare have said anything for fear of persecution. Sure. So that is bang on now, absolutely bang on. Why should these people make to feel like there's something wrong with them? There isn't anything wrong with them. I'm not saying that for a second. But a man and a woman are biologically created, built to copulate, to be with.
Yeah, agree. I agree with that 100%. I agree with that 100%. But if you're in a situation where you're in a girls' school, an all-girls school, and there's no kind of pressure not to experiment, if you like, for want of a better word, then
I perhaps need to explain this a little bit better.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think outside the box here.
Our town is very small.
Sure.
It's not very big at all. It's probably the same size as Oadby was when we were young. Now, as well as this, as my daughter's school, as I say, there's a boys' school, there's all the other bits. At 3:30 in the afternoon, you can't move in that town. God help you if you try and get from one end to the other. Because it's kids everywhere, and they all hang around after school. None of them, they don't come straight home. They all go and meet up in the marketplace. They meet up at so and so. So, and this is where you have the mixing of the different genres,
Sure.
genders. So, thank you very so much. So they're not denied, the ability to mix with the opposite sex at all.
No, but they're having more opportunity to mix with the same. Like if you want to meet a boy, like I said, there's absolutely that there. But I think the thing is now, what I'm saying is so there's a lot of people, in the way that things are now, is people have the option to be more open-minded about it. And if they want to experiment with it, they can. And they might. And I think what you're saying is, because there's this openness about it, people are more likely to experiment that way than they did before.
No,
I mean, let's be honest. If you're really squeamish about it, you're not going to go down that road. If that's not your thing, then you're not going to go down that road. You know what I mean?
But then there's this huge peer pressure thing, especially at that sort of an age. So no, I'm not saying
to have a girlfriend. You've got to have a girlfriend. You're a girl. Yeah.
It's almost, it seems to me, I've never sat in on one of these sex education lessons with them, obviously.
Yeah.
But you asked me a question earlier, 90% of the school. I can't speak for 90% of the school. What I can speak about is Charlie's sort of circle of, let's say, 10 friends.
Yeah.
Okay. Her little gang that she hangs around with. Out of that 10, 8 of them have been in and out of relationships with same sex.
Okay, well that's very high then, isn't it? That is really high.
That's the point I'm trying to make. So all I can put that down to is that they are being not only told it's okay if you're like that, which it is, but they're almost being told, so if you want to go out and do that, brilliant stuff. You go out and do that. Encouraging it almost. That's my fear.
Well, I think we should perhaps go back to the original point and start from the beginning and then come back to this, I think. When I started this, there's a lot of things online I've seen about sex education, and they talk about teaching sex education to younger children in primary school. I don't think that anybody of primary school age wants to be taught about sex education at that age. And one of the things that was mentioned is the fact that some of the far left schools now are trying to teach more about same-sex relationships. And I think personally at that age, you don't need to know.
You don't.
I mean, when we used to go on school trips, when we were in infant school, not so much junior school, maybe junior school a little bit, I don't know, but I've mentioned this to you before. They always used to get you to hold hands, and as a boy, you would always hold hands with another boy. Because if you held hands with a girl, it was kind of feminizing in some way, and it was like your worst day ever. And I think if you were taught, if you're a boy and you like boys, then you're gay. I think every boy in my school would have gone home and told their parents that they were gay, because they would much rather hold a hand with a boy than with a girl. And so I don't think that you need to be teaching children that young about same-sex relations. And they say we have families now where some families have 2 daddies and some families have 2 mummies, and children need to know that that's kind of normal, and don't question it. Well, I don't think children would question it, because I think like in my marriage, Sarah always was home with the kids all day, and I came home late at night. She was like the disciplinarian, and I was always the one that came home and read the stories and did all the fun stuff. So I think for most kids, if they were told, if they've got similar relationships to that, most kids could come home and say, "Oh, I've got 2 daddies." They think, "Oh, that's brilliant, because dads are more fun than mums." You know what I mean? And another interesting point is, I had 2 aunties. Now I had my auntie Carol, which was my dad's sister, and Auntie Marion. I knew wasn't a family member, but she lived with Auntie Carol. Okay.
Right.
My whole life, I had Auntie Carol and Auntie Marion who lived together. It wasn't until I was about 30, after my Auntie Carol, after they both died, actually, my sister said to me, "You do realise they were a couple?" And I was like, "Oh my God." I never, ever it never crossed my mind, but that's what innocence is. And that was me being innocent, just accepting that I had 2 aunties. It was never something that I actually even kind of contemplated them as being a couple, because I was innocent about it. And I think when you start putting sex education into younger kids, I just think it's unnecessary.
I hugely agree.
You know, and I think you take away the innocence. And I think, you know, if someone's got two dads or two mums, I think most of them will just not even think about it. Just think, oh, well, you know, Freddie's got two dads. And I think
Yeah,
when you start labeling stuff and that, and I think you lose that innocence. And you know what it's like. So you said Charlie's 14. When they get to 11 and they start high school, they're like little kids. And then when they get to sort of 13, 14, they're starting to go into adults. You know, they want to, you know, I've got 3 girls. They want to wear makeup. They want to wear shorter skirts and stuff. And that's probably the time when you should be talking to them. And it's not even sex education. It's about biology.
spot
You
on.
know, you're teaching them,
Spot on,
you're
Jay.
teaching them about, you know, how babies are made. You probably should be teaching them about STIs and, you know, pregnancy and all that kind of stuff. And that's what you need to do. I saw a guy in America, and I don't know if they're doing it here, but he was saying his primary school brought a book home teaching his boy about how to suck dick, basically. So that, you know, sex education is not the Kama Sutra. It shouldn't be about teaching people different things. It should be teaching them about biology. And that's kind of where my issue is the fact that you know, you can't have this leftist agenda that you kind of so open about everything. I mean, at the end of the day, they've got access to the internet these days. If they want to find out about stuff, then they can. And if they are of that persuasion, they'll find the way. You know, they'll find the way. And we started this conversation now, it's not a taboo subject now. And in fact, some ways it's probably trendy, which is
and
is
that's
the thing
another thing.
which is the issue. But then that goes on with the trans stuff and that. And I was talking to another friend of mine a few months ago, and I said, oh, you know, how old's your daughter now? And she was about 14. She's going through this non-binary stage now, when she kind of dresses as a boy sometimes and dresses as a girl sometimes. And I think that's because it's trendy. But that's a whole different subject, which we have covered before.
Yeah, no, I agree. Interesting you should say about being young and teaching them. So I'm a massive agreement with you on that. They don't need to know, for crying out loud. Let them be kids for as long as they can be kids with their innocence. But I remember up on the island, and this was in the Brownies. So Charlie wouldn't have been any older. I think perhaps 10. Let's say she was around about 10. And there's this thing at the church, or Kirk as they're called up there, and it was a bit of a challenge, and it was to name all the flags of the world, right? So there was all these flags all dotted around the church, and the kids went and they had to name one, and whoever got them the most won a prize, you see. So anyway, so they go there, and bear in mind the Brownies. I don't know how old you got to be a brownie, maybe 7, something like that. So anyway, all these kids are there, and there's all these flags, and they're going around, they're going around, they're going around, they're going around. And there was one at the end. I didn't know. To be fair, I didn't know all of them anyway. But you know, I knew a fair few. So we came home to try and work out what the other ones that we didn't know was. And this one was LGBT.
The rainbow one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What in the name? So okay. So what happens then? Well, where's that, Dad? Where's LGBT?
What country?
It isn't actually a country. Why was that there? Well, what is LGBT? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so why they got in a right round of fucks about that, to be perfectly honest. What on earth? And it all transpires that the woman that had organised it was a lesbian.
Yeah. I think, like I say, it's sometimes it's trying to push an agenda. And like I said to you, I think, you know, people will find their way. You know what I mean? If that's what they want, they will find their way. And I think, excuse the pun, forcing it down people's throats is certain. And like I said to you, I don't even think that I don't think a lot of gay people would agree that that's the right thing to do. You know, I think at the end of the day, it's just become, now we live in a world where everything's trying to be so politically correct and inclusive that they're sometimes missing the point.
Massively. They're not just missing it. It's literally in another room.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're creating more trouble than they're actually trying to solve.
Yeah.
Through meaning well. Do you know what I mean? It is through meaning well. But this is us as a race all over, or the people that are guiding us and telling us how we should be doing things, are just going too far in one direction. So you're right. So they do try and teach the little kids, because
Yeah.
Charlie had it up on the island,
Yeah.
as sex education when she was in primary school. No, they don't need to know that.
Don't need to know that. No, I think the thing is what they're trying to teach kids in primary school now is because obviously, you know, you have got an unfortunate society where children are abused, and they want to sort of teach them that certain things are wrong, you know, and I think that's why they're trying.
Of course, I understand
That's why they're trying to educate them. But I think unfortunately you lose the innocence for a lot of the other kids by doing the same sort of thing. Just come back from holiday. We were in Mexico, and there were quite a few gay couples there, and just they were just like everyone, you know, everyone was talking to everybody, and there was no sort of issue with anybody. And I do think that shows how far the world's come, because 20 or 30 years ago, you know, there was an assumption where you just would not, you know, if you saw, well, no, not even that. It's like if you saw, you know, if you said, oh, there's a gay fellow there, oh, I'm not going near him. You know, he's going to try and have sex with me. I mean, and I think that was kind of the assumption that everybody had. And I think we're just more open now than we ever were. I've got a gay friend of mine. He used to be a client when I was PTing, and he said to me, he says, we've got loads of friends. We've got straight friends and other gay friends and all the rest of it. He said, but and he was a very kind of he used to be a fireman. He's just a normal blokey kind of bloke.
Okay.
And he said, but still nobody, like none of the blokes will go out with me one-on-one, because they're all kind of like the people. He said, I think they're worried that if they're seen with another gay bloke, that people are just going to start to sort of, you know, make assumptions and they still feel sort of threatened by it. So I went on a holiday for my 50th with about 12 other lads. I said, do you want to come? And so he came on holiday with us all, and he had a great time. And
Brilliant.
everybody, and it's quite funny because none of them knew him, and I never said to any of them that he was gay. I just sort of said, you know, oh, this is my mate Ed, and he told them all on the first night, and but everyone was fine. But I didn't want everyone to have an assumption of him before he got there. But my point is we do live in a society now where everyone is a lot more open and accepting, and I really do think that is a good thing. And I think if people find their own, you know, people will find their own way. And going back to the thing what you said earlier about the girls' school, you know, some people might try and decide it's not for them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think it's not. Sure.
I think if you're in a school where they're pushing it and saying you should try it, then that's a whole different thing, you know.
Well, that was my initial point. Is that, because as I say, I haven't been saying one, but is that now? Is it going to the point? Because they don't seem to have. She had the let's all sit down in a classroom and we're going to talk about sex education. As I say, when she was in primary school up on the island. But I think what they seem to have is whether it's in their biology classes or where it is, I don't know. It's a separate thing. But it's kind of like a rolling thing. You know, they don't have a set lesson. Somebody will talk about it, and it's just to keep it fresh, if you like, and to keep it okay. And it's purely because of the amount of the people in her friendship group that when she said, oh, well, they've split up now, so that's caused a rift between that. They've split up now, and they've split up, and they've split up. I'm kind of thinking, well, okay, are you almost being encouraged to go down that road? Now, I've got to say as well, at 14, I did experiment around, not with different lads, I suppose not with lads, but had I felt that way, I probably would have done. But I think that's a normal thing at that sort of age. You go from one girlfriend to another to whatever you do.
Is that I have to say I didn't have many girlfriends at 14. I wasn't a very popular kid. I had a lot of girlfriends at about 11 and 12, and then 13, 14, 15, I never no girls wouldn't go out with me. No, honestly, never had a girlfriend when I was 14 or 15 for the life of me. Oh no, I think I did. I think I won. Fiona Hughes. Yeah, no, I just wasn't very confident and just not very cool. But the thing is, you're sort of saying that, you know, we're talking about sex education at school, but the fact is that not the role of social media, perhaps more than sex education at school? because I think that's
It
probably
could
more
be.
the
It
case.
could be. It could be. It could be a
I would say
combination.
that's more the case, because if you look down a lot of social media, we've done clips on social media. I think
Yeah.
you'll find it's more the fact that because as I say, I remember our sex education classes, everybody laughing there hilariously at what we're being shown.
Yeah.
I think you saw a baby getting born and all that kind of stuff, which is what they should show you. Because, but yeah, I think you got to ask I think really the question is for you is to ask Charlie. Is that what's being taught? Are
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
learning at school that you should be experimenting or not, or is it just the fact that social? I think there's a lot of it's the role of social media.
I think it's a mixture of the two, quite honestly.
And as I
I
say,
think
and
it's
people being very open about the fact that it's all acceptable, maybe a little bit trendy in some ways. And again, in an all-girls school, maybe that changes a lot of things. The fact they're in an all-girls school, maybe the all-boys school are the same.
maybe maybe so. Who bloody knows? But it's certainly a different world, Jay.
It
It's a
is.
nicer world. It's a nicer world. But, I love the fact that nobody feels alienated and nobody feels that they have to hide themselves.
People have choice. People have choices now that we probably never had.
Yeah, I think you're right there. I think you're right. But my fear is it being turned into the norm.
Being a trend. No, I don't think so much. Yeah, being a trend. Being a trend. The other thing, now here's another theory for me. Is it actually biology? Because obviously we've got a situation in the world now where overpopulation is an issue.
Yeah.
So is our biology adapting? Because obviously when there were not many people on the world, we needed to procreate to make more people. And now we have a situation where we have so many more people and we're getting too many people. Is our biology actually adapting to actually prohibit the continuance of offspring so we get more balance? There's a theory
Blimey,
for
mate,
you.
that's an interesting slant.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So actually the population is not even in decline, but even so we go over a set pattern. So if there's more same-sex couples, you have less children, and therefore you kind of stunt the growth of humanity. Is that a possibility?
Bloody hell.
I think the thing is as
Yeah,
well,
why not? Why
we're not as bound by the Bible as we used to be. We're not a religious country generally, aren't we? Okay, if you talk to a Muslim family or a family who's Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever, they're all very much bound by religion. Whereas we consider ourselves Christians, but the reality is we're not really Christians. We don't go to church, and I know you said you prayed before, but generally people don't pray. People aren't generally religious, so we're not bound by what we believe. We're not going to hell anymore if we do certain things.
Which is that I think that's a little bit of a misconception. And again, I would love to be proven wrong with this because I haven't read the Bible from cover to cover. But the Bible is very much what people interpret the words to be.
Sure, of course, all
And
the all are.
I actually don't think that there is a single passage in there, no pun intended, that actually says same sex is
No,
wrong.
it says man should not lie down with another man, I believe, something along those lines.
Yeah, something like that.
But it also
Something
says,
like that.
you're allowed to, I think it says you're allowed to beat your wife to death if she's adulterous, and you should be owed two slaves, one as long as they're not the same nation as you, and all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stuff in there. But my point is, we're not so ruled by the Bible, and obviously, homosexuality is not illegal anymore. So the boundaries are different, and it does give people the opportunity to choose.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think in summary, kids should be allowed to be kids for as long as possible.
I don't think any sex education needs to be taught before 11.
No,
I don't think they need the Kama Sutra. They need biology. They need to know about the biology of people, and that's all they need. And like I say, even the fact that we have same-sex parenting families and stuff like that, I don't even think they need to know about that. Because if a kid's interested, they'll go home and they'll ask the parents, why has such and such got two daddies? And if the parents are liberal, open-minded people, they will say, well, some people sometimes, people men like men and women like women, and they get married and decide to have a family. And some people will say, well, you know, those bloody puffs next door, you know, people will, that's because that's the way they are, you know, that's their sort of attitude. So you'll get what you get from your parents, really, on how you decide. But I don't think you need any sort of lefty agenda pushing anything.
Spot on, mate.
Yeah.
No, you don't. You don't.
So,
And maybe that's another thing. People aren't allowed to have their own minds anymore. They're almost being brainwashed into what they should be thinking and should be feeling.
If you think about that, really, that's almost we were the other way, because we were told you couldn't be that way, weren't we, when we were at school? So you say that, but so the ideal is to really let people have their own choice and not be brainwashed one way or another. And again, that's the, you know, we had this sort of age where, and I think we had that up until probably about 2017, and then all of a sudden it's gone far left, and everyone's pushing this, you know, you've got to be trans friendly and you've got to be this friendly. Girls can dress as boys and decide to use the other bathroom and all the rest of it. And it's in the last 5 years where you've got this hard left agenda, whereas so things are being pushed the other way.
So really, this generation are no better off than we were.
No,
but at different ends of the scale.
But at different ends of the scale. I think that's probably what we're saying.
Yeah, bloody hell. But I do love your theory about it. Could it be biology that's doing this?
I mean, is it the fact that people are more open and able to talk about it, and we've always been that way, but we, you know, our generation suppressed it more, or is it a fact that genuinely biology has changed? I mean, we do talk about, you know, there's more estrogen in the water now, and you know, and you know, the chemicals and the plastics we're eating. I mean, that might be having an effect on the way we're thinking. Who knows? But like I say, maybe it's biology. Maybe it is biology.
Maybe we've opened a whole can of worms there, Jay.
We have, mate. We like to open cans of worms on this show. Yeah, on this show, jazz hands. Look, I've been watching too much I've been watching too many lefty TikToks. I'm going all jazz hands now.
Yeah,
I'll be wearing my rainbow flag next week on the back.
Oh, you're a good lad. That's the way to do it.
That's it. Steve will be coming in his sparkly stilettos. Speaking of sparkly, speaking of my holiday, so there was this fella he came out one day. He was an older fella. He's probably about 60. He looked like he was probably in his day. He was a big bloke. He was tall. He was quite broad, and he looked like in his day that he was he probably used to weightlift, but you know, he'd gone. You know what I mean? He looked like he could have been a big guy back in the day, but he let himself go a bit. And he had like a woman's stringy, strappy top on, and like these, you know, these sort of square cut James Bond Speedo kind of things, you know, like the square cut ones, the tight ones. And he had one of them on, and he had this strappy top on, and he walked by, because I said he looked like he'd sort of an out of shape, probably lifter in his day. And I thought, well, maybe that's kind of like, he thinks it's like one of these muscle vests, you know what I mean? Like, because sometimes you can get them a little bit stringy. I've got a few that are kind of a little bit more kind of show your body off a bit. But I'm thinking, I think it looks more like a woman's kind of strappy top. So weren't sure. I said, Sarah, what do you make of that? Is he wearing? Thinks he's wearing a singlet? Anyway, he passed me on the stairs the other day, and I thought, no, I think he's definitely got a bit of a kind of a sort of male female thing coming on. Anyway, apparently the next day he was down in he just had like a thong on, and he had these massive nipple piercings. And apparently you could see his Prince Albert through the front of his thong. It was like a really sort of thin thong, and he had this massive piercing in his penis that you could see. Because my daughter stayed there longer than me, so we came back earlier. And apparently the next day he comes down in a women's Baywatch style swim costume. Now,
okay,
I have no idea how you fit the meat and two veg in there. I mean, you know, you don't have to be John Holmes, and you're still not gonna fit it in there. You know what I mean? It's just not enough going on down there. So I don't know what was going on. You know, he must have had two plums hanging out each side. I don't know, but you know, you have to applaud the free thinking of a person who can on his own. He was on his own, who can walk out completely happy and not give two fucks about what anybody thinks. You know what I mean?
I got to say, I applaud that.
I was going to say he had to have balls, and probably everybody saw them, but but you know, again, you never got away with that 30 years ago. He'd have been stoned as he walked through the doors, you know. But now people get away with it, and I actually think, you know, there's very few real free thinkers in the world, you know, who really aren't sheep, because we're all sheep, you know. We all got similar hairstyles, and we've all got beards at the minute because that's kind of a trendy thing to have. So we all kind of follow to a degree. But I think to actually be able to say, do you know what, I'm going out there in a blinking Baywatch bikini with me plums hanging out. I think
that is brilliant.
Fair play
I love
to him.
it.
Fair play
to
him.
I think he's edging his bets, is what he's doing. So I've always maintained that every single decision we make, everything comes down to sex. Everything, the car you buy, the colour that you buy, the way you have your haircut, the clothes that you buy, all come down to, will the opposite sex find me attractive? Will somebody find me attractive if I drive this car, if I buy that? Will somebody admire me? Will someone? So what he's actually done, being very, very clever, is actually, if you only want women, you've only got 50% of the market, haven't you? If you only want blokes, you've only got the other 50% of the market you're trying to be attracted to. Very cleverly, he's cast his net out there, 100% of the market. Anyone who fancies it, I'm up for it.
No, but he wasn't even trying to be a woman. I mean, you know, there was no sort of attempt to be a woman. He was just wearing a woman's bathing costumes to show his plums off.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is, so it could well be a woman sees him and thinks, yeah, do you know what? I quite fancy a bit of that, and he's open for it. It might be a bloke looks and goes, well, do you know what? Maybe the way he dresses, he's up for a bit of that.
Or maybe he was just trying to deter everybody by being neither one or the other. Because if you fancy a bloke, if you fancy a bloke, you want a blokey bloke. If you fancy a woman, you want a femaley woman. If you some people like a feminine bloke, but he wasn't even a feminine bloke. He was just a kind of like something else. You know what I mean? Someone like a butch woman, but he wasn't even that. Well, he probably was more like a butch woman.
Eddie Izzard.
More like a butch woman. Yeah, a little bit like that. Yeah, a little bit like that. But, you know, I wish I'd been there longer, because I would like to have seen more outfits, you know, to know what was going on.
Prince Albert, didn't
I wanted to know what he was wearing. I wanted what he was wearing at night. You know what I mean?
Where does he go from there? How do you
top that? Yeah, that's it. What is he coming down in at night? I wanted to know.
Stockings and a basque.
Well, you know, you might switch sides for that. You know, you never know. Anyway, shall we call this a wrap?
I think we should.
I think we've embraced many topics on this one today.
We have, haven't we?
Yeah.
And it all boils down to sex. But there you are. And as it does, as I believe it always bloody does. But that's been good. I think we've cleared the air on one or two things there.
Yeah, I think I'm more confused than I ever started now.
Marvellous. Then our job here is done.
I'm starting to wish I'd gone to an all-girls school. just to watch the lesbian action.
Never too late.
Just to watch the lesbian action.
Listen, in this day and age, all you need to do is identify as a 12-year-old girl and you'll be welcome.
You can do, yeah, you can do. I'm gonna get my motorcycle out and identify as a cyclist and win the Tour de France. You know, put a bit of lycra on.
Spot on, do it, mate.
Fire out the motorbike. I'm going to enter next year. They can't eliminate me. I identify as a cyclist.
Love it. Yeah,
good man.
Do it.
On that, we'll leave it there. Thank you for watching. Thank you for if you'd like to like the video, we would appreciate that. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, we'd really appreciate that. And what else do we need to do, Steve?
Well, this is the most important and the fun bit, in my opinion, mate, is pressing the old bell end.
Press Steve's bell end, because he's up for a bit of experimentation. Because he was denied it at school because we weren't allowed back in those days. Now he's an older man. He's a bit more open-minded, and he likes his bell end to be pressed by as many people of whatever gender is available.
Yeah, and feel free to stroke it as well if you need, as opposed to just press it.
Thanks for watching. See you all next time.
Bless you all. See you later. Cheers.